Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for us Michigan fans coming out of the transfer portal. Former Georgia linebacker Troy Bowles committing to Michigan. It's halftime of this Penn State SMU game. Looking for an excuse to do something else until I didn't want to miss an opportunity to talk about this kid. On the surface, you can look at it and say, all right, Troy Bowles only played 43 snaps in his Georgia career in the first two seasons. Yeah, I think that's fair. But I don't think that says anything about what Troy Bowles is as a football player. I think it says a lot more about that Georgia linebacker room being disgustingly loaded. So, although he doesn't have a ton of experience under his belt, this is a football player that I think can play. You go back to him coming out of high school in that 2023 class, he was a box checker in every sense of the word. Whatever you were looking for in an off-ball linebacker, Troy Bowles was that guy. You obviously know his father is the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks. You know this is a football player as well. This one makes a ton of sense. And with the noise and rumors about Jay-Sean Barham moving to that edge rusher position, maybe the off-ball linebacker room was a little bit of a concern. Now we expect Ernest Hausman to come back. You expect Jamie Rolder to be back. You expect Cole Sullivan to be a dude for Michigan in 2025. And now you add Troy Bowles and say that four-man rotation, I think a lot of Michigan fans feel damn good about it. And Michigan wants to rotate their backers. They've done it pretty much for as long as I've been a Michigan fan, especially with this new defense that we've seen. You want to be deep. You want to be able to play a lot of players. Troy Bowles allows you to do that. And I can't wait to see what this kid can do with more opportunity to get on the football field. Fired up to get into this one. Before we do it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Michigan fans. It's been a blast breaking down these commitments. It's been a blast the last couple of weeks, and y'all have shown a ton of love to the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I will give you the T-box here. Troy Bowles, how are we feeling?
I mean, it's a big get. I think you look at Michigan trying to reload this roster from, frankly, again, we've talked about it, just a few years of probably subpar recruiting towards the end of the Harbaugh tenure. And you look at trying to put together a deeper pipeline of talent that I think can step up and make Michigan more of a sustainable winning program and not have these type of years where you go 7-5. And there were some very clear holes on this roster. I think, again, adding this type of transfer, as much as you want to maybe bring in some proven production as well, I think bringing in just more talent and more competition and being able to develop through the ranks of Michigan's program. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan grabbed a couple of these type of guys.
Look, I'm okay with going the Troy Bowles route instead of solid veteran piece. Troy Bowles a much higher ceiling. I mean, this kid, there's a reason he was a top 70 national kid coming out of high school. The ceiling for this kid at off-ball backer is really damn high. Doesn't have the experience that some other linebackers did have in the portal. I'm okay with that if you bring back Ernest Hausman, because Ernest Hausman has a ton of experience and he can kind of be that glue in the linebacker room, kind of including a guy like Jimmy Rolder, who is starting to play a lot towards the back half of 2024. I feel comfortable with the experience. I'm more excited about the fit for Troy Bowles. This was a guy that in his high school years played a little safety, then worked up to the off-ball linebacker spot, then came off the edge a little bit towards the junior and senior year. He's done a lot of different things. We have this conversation all the time. Wink Martindale, this ain't the Don Brown defense. We're just not playing man coverage and setting pressure. Like, we're doing a lot of different things with a lot of different of our players. Troy Bowles is a perfect fit. This is a guy that is athletic enough to carry tight ends up the seam. He's athletic enough to go tackle running backs in the flat. He has that long speed to go sideline to sideline, had a track and field background coming out of high school. He can come off the edge. He can fit the runs. There's not really anything he can't do. And so in terms of the fit within this Wink Martindale defense, I really do like it. And then I think secondly, and we talked about this actually earlier today, it's that continued gravitational pull to these hyper athletic linebackers. You go back and say Michigan's had a lot of really good linebackers in the last 10 years, but at times it felt as if we weren't athletic enough there. And when we play teams like Ohio State that could challenge us in space, we normally fell short. you take a look at one of the significant changes that Michigan has had on defense, the team speed, specifically at linebacker, has shot immediately in the right direction. It started kind of with Junior Colson, and now it's happening with Jay Sean Barman and Ernest Hausman. Troy Bowles is that kind of guy too. That gravitational move from these to these really athletic linebackers. That to me, that's what you need to have if you're trying to win at the highest level of college football.
And again, we just talked about it. Like, it's not just Troy Bowles, it's the Cole Sullivans, a guy who was overlooked because he came out very lean as a high schooler, wasn't the 230
Yeah,
pound guy coming out, but really, really athletic. And assuming you can get him putting that strength on and that weight on and keeping that athleticism should be really dynamic. You look at the two guys coming in this year, Nathan Usu-Boateng and obviously
Chase Taylor.
Chase Taylor, similar kind of guys, longer, leaner, more athletic, have to probably add some weight and maybe aren't going to be instant contributors necessarily, but guys who I think fit that mold of being really athletic and being able to be a little bit more versatile in terms of how you can use them in a
And
defense.
you gotta have it, especially in this new landscape of the Big Ten, where it's not only Ohio State, now it's Oregon, now it's USC, some more teams that they want to challenge you in space too, and you got to have the backers who can do it. Really like this edition, and I will say this too: you kind of know you're getting a good football player. Like, yes, he didn't play a ton at Georgia. We've seen what Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann have done in terms of developing linebackers. Like, there's a very good chance that Troy Bowles, after 2 years of development in Athens, Georgia, is coming to Michigan a good player, even though we haven't necessarily seen it on the football field either. Now, I'm going to ask you this, Dill. The interesting conversation is Kamari House, also on campus for Michigan this weekend. He was a true freshman in 2024, played a lot of football. Another one of those undersized but hyper athletic backers that played very well as a true freshman. Does it make sense to go get another linebacker? And look, I'm on the proponent of it. You got an opportunity to get a good football player on your team. You don't pass up on it. I think more of the conversation is it worth the resources and effort to go get another backer when maybe you want to kind of focus your attention on some different spots on this football team.
Now, there's an element of that being very dependent on Ernest Hausman. Now, I would
Yes,
suspect Ernest
100% it
Hausman
is.
has an incentive to be back at Michigan. I think towards the end of the year, he started to really round in the form, but I don't know what type of draft pick he'll be
Yeah.
right now. I think a very good year next year gives him a very good chance to be kind of a day one or early day
Yep.
two kind of guy. So I like to think Ernest Hausman's being back. But again, that if he's not, then Kamari House, I think, makes a ton of sense to really
Yes.
go after really,
Agreed.
really hard.
Agreed. And it's a really good football player. Even if Ernest Hausman does come back, you can't go wrong
Well,
bringing in a guy
he's a
like
guy, like, you don't turn Kamari House down. Like, I have, like,
Agreed.
that mentality of,
Agreed.
like, well, we don't need every position in the world, but when a really good player in that position, if they wanna be at Michigan, like,
Yeah.
I don't know that running back's the hugest need in the world. If Justice Haynes wants to be at Michigan, like, you're not gonna say no to Justice Haynes. I don't know that tight end's the hugest need in the world, but if Max Clark wants to play at Michigan, you're gonna say yes to Max
Yeah,
Clark because he's a very good player.
you're suddenly looking at it and specifically on defense and saying, all right, you add Demond Payne. That goes a long way in answering some of the question marks we had on the inside of the defensive line. You add a guy like Troy Bowles, all of a sudden you're feeling good at backer. You add a guy like TJ Metcalf in the secondary. All of a sudden you're looking at it and saying, I feel pretty good about where Michigan is from a personnel standpoint on defense. And what I'm guessing we're going to see now is a shift and say, let's start building this thing around Bryce Underwood. And ideally, if you're a Michigan fan, you're hoping to see some big names on the offensive side of the football come into the fold as well. We'll continue to break down the commitments as they come in. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.